The latest UT Texas Politics Project poll is out, and we are digging through results with focus on the race for Texas governor, border security, and gun violence. And we're bringing in Jim Henson, the executive director of the Texas Politics Project. I know a busy day for you, so thank you so much for making time for us.
It's great to be here, Jennifer.
All right, so first let's dig into, there are a lot of results in this poll, but the poll showed that Governor Greg Abbott is holding a lead over Beto O'Rourke. Is that growing or shrinking?
You know, it's kind of stabilized right now.
Okay.
We had the race at 45-40. That's pretty unchanged from what we had the race at in June. The polling generally has been fluctuating with an advantage for the governor between 5 and 8 points. So Beto O'Rourke seems to have gained some ground, but maybe is sort of stuck a little bit.
Yeah, okay, and what are some of the political and structural advantages that Abbott has and the obstacles then that Beto O'Rourke has?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, one of the things you have to remember about Governor Abbott is that as a Republican, he just inherits a lot of advantages. One is that there are just a lot of Republican voters out there, more in the actual electorate that show up. So that creates a hill for Beto O'Rourke to climb from the very beginning. Governor Abbott is an incumbent. Democrats have no incumbents, so there's no scaffolding in government. Finally, you know, Governor Abbott is an experienced campaigner and has what is effectively infinite resources when it comes to money. We know he can raise a lot of money. He can always raise as much money as he needs. That's hard for Beto O'Rourke to overcome. He's a good fundraiser himself and a good campaigner. So the dilemma for Beto O'Rourke is, how does he add some voters to his pile of votes when there's just not that many available votes out there? He's got to grow his voter pool. That's always hard.
Okay, and now delving into the issues, you explored a lot of policies, Texans' views on a lot of policies. One, not only statewide but nationwide, it's made headlines, is busing migrants. And so what was the view on that?
Yeah, you know, we asked people whether they supported or opposed the state paying for busing migrants awaiting hearings to other parts of the country. As you say, this has been a lightning rod for Governor Abbott for much of the summer. It was a really striking result. 52% of Texans approved of the policy. Not surprisingly, wildly popular with Republicans. 80% of Republicans supported it, but also supported by about a fifth of Democrats, which is really helpful. Going back to that problem that Beto O'Rourke has, it actually makes that problem harder when Governor Abbott does things that get support from Democrats and about half of independents. So for all the you know, kind of abuse that the governor has taken at the hands of his critics, it's politically been very successful and a win for him. I think that's why they've kept doing it. Okay, and something else that you looked into, gun control laws. We know that that is really been a hot topic now. And so what are Texans' views on that? Yeah, surprisingly, they're not all saying the same thing. Now, a majority of Texas voters, when we ask people, do you think gun laws should be made more strict, less strict, or left alone, a majority, 54%, said gun laws should be made more strict. That's the highest that we've gotten on that item since we started asking in 2015. Almost certainly fallout from the Uvalde shootings and some shifts in views, particularly among independents, on gun laws.
Okay, and one of the headings that stood out to me, President Joe Biden, former President Donald Trump in 2024. So you had some results on that as well.
Yeah, you know, I mean, honestly, we almost didn't ask this question because it's, you know, 2024 is a ways off.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of discussion about this as part of the 2022 cycle. You know, neither of the, Texans don't want either of them to run again on the whole, but part of that is partisanship. So 59% say they didn't think Biden should run for re-election. Problem for the president, only 42% of Democrats said he should run. About a quarter didn't know. 57% of Texans said that Donald Trump shouldn't run either, but there, Republicans much more positive about Donald Trump running again in 2024. 61% of Republicans said that he should run again. So Donald Trump is still a really exceedingly powerful presence in the Republican Party in the state.
So there are a lot of issues that can sway voters. What were the top issues that you saw in the polls and the research that you've done thus far on the minds of Texan voters?
Well, you know, when we frame this with the election, we saw something that we see even when we frame it generally, which is you ask people what's the issue that is affecting your vote. number one result, about more than a quarter of Texans, immigration and border security, followed by the state economy, and then abortion. But abortion drops down to about 12%, gun violence about 11%, and big differences between Democrats and Republicans. As we've already said, for Republicans, far and away the number one response is immigration and border security, followed by the economy. Democrats look very different, they're split in a way that always hurts Democrats. About 21% number one response, abortion, 18% gun violence, 12% climate change. But you compare those numbers to the big number on immigration and border security among Republicans, and you see one of the problems Democrats have. They don't have anything to galvanize them in the way that immigration and border security galvanizes Republicans, and with Governor Abbott's busing policy, he's been very successful at leveraging that.
Okay, and then lastly, Jim, was there anything that there's a lot of data in here? Was there anything though for you that surprised you or shocked you from the poll results?
I think one of the things we noticed is we asked a question about whether Texans thought that three things should be legal or not: gay marriage, interracial marriage, and contraception. Big majorities said that interracial marriage, contraception should be legal. But the numbers on gay marriage looked a lot like they did 6 or 7 years ago, even before the legalization of gay marriage. I think there's a sense we have that that's a settled issue. What this illustrated is that it's not, and that a majority of Republicans are still against legalizing gay marriage. And I think that's probably a leading indicator of one of the things that we'll see percolating in the legislature when we get to that phase of the political cycle in 2023.
All right, Jim Henson, as always, thank you so much. We'll have the full poll on our website at KXAN.com.